Hello, everybody, and good morning. My name is Ricardo Cabrera, and I am the operations manager at the Latino Chamber of Commerce of Boulder County. And today we have as our guest, Siena Man. And Siena is the campaign manager for CIRC in Denver. So welcome, Siena. How are you today?
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm doing well.
Excellent. Siena, before we start talking about work, and by the way, today we are going to talk about the two new laws for immigrant rights that were passed earlier this month, and they are being signed into law actually tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be June 25th of 2021. But before we talk about all that, Siena, would you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Great. Thank you, Ricardo. So my name is Siena. I am campaign manager at the Coloardo Immigrant Rights Coalition, and I grew up in Colorado. So this is my home. And at CIRC, basically what we do is we work to make Colorado a more safer and welcoming place for all. And we organize with immigrant communities across the state to both fight for immigration reform at the federal level, but also make changes here in Colorado that will benefit and improve people's lives. So we've had a lot of wins in the past couple years, and we'll be talking about some really, really important wins this year.
Excellent. So this month, actually, there were two laws that were passed. I think one of them was about privacy for immigrants, and the other one was pro bono representation for immigrants. And just so you know, about last month, I did a recording with another CIRC individual, Josh Stallings, and we talked about immigrant rights. So the 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendments that we all get to benefit from, including the immigrant undocumented population. So this is, since this new laws came up, I thought it would be nice to add to our new knowledge of how we are protected by the laws in this country, whatever our status. And therefore, today we get to talk about the two new bills that we passed. So why don't we start with a quick introduction and summary of what they are, these two bills that were passed.
Yeah, great. So first, I want to start by saying that this legislative session just ended. And this year was filled with so many victories. So we're going to talk about two of the bills that we worked on at CIRC, but there were other bills that are really important that were passed as well. And so many people collaborated to make that happen. So the first bill that I want to talk about that Ricardo mentioned is the Legal Defense Fund bill. And Colorado just became one of the first states to create a statewide fund that will provide representation to immigrants in detention. So this will apply for anybody who's detained in the detention center in Colorado. And I want to talk about why this is really important, because as many of you probably know, in criminal court, everybody has access to a lawyer, which is called a public defender. And that means that you don't have to face the judge alone in a case that could have really severe consequences in your life. Well, in immigration court, nobody is guaranteed the right to a lawyer. So if you can't afford one, you don't get one. And as we know, an immigration case has enormous impact on somebody's life, on their family, on their community. So this bill creates a program that with a small amount of funding to start providing representation to those who are detained. And right now, we only have limited funding. So it's like a pilot program. It won't be able to cover every single person, but we want it to grow in the future. And the other really important thing about this fund is that it's statewide. So it doesn't matter where in Colorado you live. For so many people, especially those who live in rural areas, it's really hard to get an immigration lawyer because most of the lawyers are concentrated on the Front Range and in Denver. And so we really wanted to make sure that everybody, no matter which part of Colorado you're in, if you are detained, you will have access to this program.
Wow, that's amazing. So I knew already that, everybody has by law to have access to a lawyer. So if you don't have a lawyer, if you can afford one, the court will provide one for you to defend you in criminal cases. So now this is kind of the same thing, but it extends then to the immigration law courts. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. We will be working with, the funding will go to nonprofits who provide legal services. So those organizations will represent the clients in front of the judge. And like I said, we want to grow the fund so that someday we can represent every single person in court. Right now it's small, so but we're going to try to continue fighting to increase funding and making sure that every single person has access to this right that should be a constitutional guaranteed right for every single person.
Right. So tell me then, if I get in trouble, if I need to be in front of an immigration judge for whatever reason, how do I access this legal defense fund? I know you guys have a hotline. Is this a good place to start?
That would be a great place to start. And starting next year, when the fund is implemented, there will also be information provided in the detention center and lawyers in the detention center through this organization called Remain that can provide more information as well. But yes, the hotline is also a great place to go.
Excellent. I tell everybody that the hotline that you have is the best place, no matter what their need is, because it's the no wrong door concept, right? They call there and they'll tell you where you need to go after that.
Exactly.
So does the court have the requirement to tell you you have access to an immigration lawyer, or do you have to know this yourself?
That's a great question. I think that's something we're still waiting to see because we only have limited funding. Unfortunately, right now, we won't be able to guarantee access for every single person. But we do hope that in the detention center, people will be alerted that there is this program, that this program exists, that people have rights and can request access to a lawyer. And so we hope that we can grow it over time and that the state also sees the benefit. We really believe that immigrants are really intrinsic members of our communities here in Colorado.
Right.
And that the loss of somebody because they're detained or deported impacts not only that person and their family, but literally everyone in their community. And so we really believe that this program is going to benefit Colorado in the long term. Of course, it's going to benefit individuals and families, but it's going to make all of our communities stronger.
Absolutely. I mean, you are so right. I mean, it's got economic side effects, and it also has mental health side effects. And it's such a shame that so many of our immigrant population is afraid to get out of their house for many reasons. And that's a tragedy. Thank you. That I hope that we can let people know that it's okay. And every year it's more okay, especially in the state of Colorado. So tell me then, Siena, tell me about the second law that was passed in this session. It was the one about privacy for immigrants.
Yes. So the second bill, like you said, is about data privacy. And one thing that we know is that ICE is increasingly using data to try to find people. So they're relying on information. And what we're trying to do in Colorado is close off ICE's access to information on Colorado immigrants. So I worked really closely with this coalition called the iDrive Coalition. And we've been working on improving the SB 251 licenses program for years. And for those who don't know, SB 251 licenses are available to everybody in Colorado, regardless of your immigration status. So this program is primarily for undocumented Coloradans to be able to get a driver's license and get to work and drive kids to school and be able to, safely present your ID to law enforcement. Last year, we did an investigation and we found that DMV employees were actually sharing information with ICE. And this was obviously enraging, shocking. We felt betrayed because we have placed our trust in this program. And so this bill seeks to fix that problem. Basically, what it does is it creates permanent protections so that ICE cannot access information from any Colorado agency unless they have a warrant, which ICE can't get because they don't do criminal investigations. So basically, it completely closes off access to state data. And the other thing that it does is that starting in January, it closes off access from state databases as well. So it says if ICE and any other agency using information for immigration purposes no longer has access to databases. This is really, really important because it's like this first line of protection. And we want people to feel safe accessing programs. There should never be a risk that you're applying for a license that your information would be jeopardized. And so this bill, what it does is it says, you can trust the state the state will keep your information safe. Your information will not be shared for immigration purposes. And you can feel confident that, if you're applying for a license or any other benefit, that you know that your information is going to stay with the state.
Well, that's awesome. That's incredible that it's now a bill about to be signed into law tomorrow. So tell me, you mentioned databases. What other examples of databases or programs can you give me that people are protected in the state of Colorado? So driver's license is one. I don't know if unemployment applies or medical. I mean, give me more examples.
Yeah, that's a great question. So unemployment definitely applies. The other kinds of things that might apply are higher education. There already are some protections in higher education. And as you might know, there's already HIPAA protections. That's a federal protection for medical records. So that already exists, but this strengthens upon that. So basically, this is a similar law to HIPAA, but now it applies to every state. The other agency that contains a lot of data is the Secretary of State, and they have things like notary information and business information. And then the final example that I'll use is the Department of Regulatory Affairs, which manages professional licenses. And that could be anything like becoming a nail technician or becoming a dental assistant. They manage all of those files, and that's all private. So basically, there's all these different places where the state has data, personal information on people, and we want to make sure that it's, that there's policy across the board that it's never shared.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, that just opens up the spectrum to a lot of things that I hadn't thought about. So, licensing is, if you're a real estate agent, if you're a lender where you have to register, if you're a contractor where you have to have a license to operate, that's a lot of employment, avenues that you can pursue now, I guess, safely and not be afraid that ICE is going to find you because you registered. Driver's license, education, medical, that covers about everything that the state can do for us. And I'm sure there are other things that we didn't think about, which is great.
And one other thing I want to mention that's really exciting is that this year, another bill passed that actually expanded access to those licenses. So some of those licenses previously required a social security number, and we removed that requirement. So now you can apply for the vast majority of those licenses with an ITIN number, which
really
incredible professional avenues for undocumented Coloradans. So that's another really exciting bill that just passed.
Wow, that's amazing. So, and I didn't know that you had to share your social security number to get some of this professional licenses. But if that is removed, then you have yet another level of freedom to walk around and work in the state of Colorado. Well, that is awesome. And I was going to ask you, how, if it's safe to apply for a driver's license or other state services, but you already answered that question, and the answer is yes, because of the third. Tell me, what's the name of the third bill that you just mentioned?
The third bill that I just mentioned about professional licenses,
yes.
The number is SB 77. And I think it's just called like expanding access to professional licenses in Colorado.
Wow. So that's awesome. Just to recap, we had the expanding licenses, we had the privacy, and then bill, and then we also had the pro bono representation. So that is great. So that probably makes us the friendliest state in the United States now towards undocumented individuals. Am I accurate on that one?
I think you are. I think this year, with these protections in place, Colorado is becoming one of the best and safest places for undocumented immigrants.
Awesome, because not too long ago we were the worst. So that's really makes me a proud Colorado citizen.
It's true. It's not too long ago that we had a show me your papers law here until 2013, I believe. So, in under 10 years, we've really shifted the state, and that came from organizing from the ground, from immigrant communities, right? That people organized themselves and fought for these rights. And so I think everybody has a lot to be proud of.
Wow, thank you. Well, thank you for all this information, Siena. This is awesome. I am going to put CIRC's information in the description down here, so you'll be able to see their hotline phone number. and some other regional numbers where you can call to get help wherever you are in the state. They have different offices around the state. So you find yours and you'll be able to contact them for help. They offer all kinds of great services towards the immigrant and the undocumented population. So if you have any question at all on how to be, how to act, where to go, and what you need, or even if you don't know what you need, they'll help you with that as well. So use that number, they're great. With that, Siena, is there anything else you want to add to this conversation before we finish?
No, thank you so much again, Ricardo, for the invitation.
You got it. Well, before we go, I have a surprise question for you. Are you ready?
Sure.
All right, Siena. What is your favorite word?
Ooh, my favorite word?
Yes.
I don't know. That's just such a hard question. You're really catching me off guard.
That's 3 words.
Okay, I love the word peace because I love the meaning of that word. And I love the word that's coming to me is actually a word in Spanish, relámpago, which is lightning, which I think is an amazing word. I love that word. So I'll leave it with those 2.
Excellent. Well, with that, Siena, thank you so much. And thank you for your information. And until next time.
Thank you so much.